Admire about Stella is her bravery to speak up about things that matter to her. And most importantly, I love her drive and her ability to make people laugh. Stella is continuing horsemanship at the University of Montana Western next year. Let's all give it up for Stella.
Thank you, Ava, and good job, Kaylee and Avery. On December 19th, 2023, I hooked up my truck and trailer, loaded up my horses, and left for Idaho. The entire trip there and back would take roughly 8 days, 6,200 miles in total, driving through 12 states, pulling almost 28,000 pounds. I had spent the past 3 weeks planning the trip, layovers, expenses, routes, and my ETAs in each state. I was trading my horse for a man's horse in Idaho, and I offered to drive up there instead of spending thousands paying someone else to do it. But I had never driven across the country before. The longest drive I had ever been on with a horse trailer was to Texas, and that was only about 36 hours there and back. So I was excited to see the whole other world that us cowboys and cowgirls dreamed of. I have been captivated by the West since I was a kid, and as nervous as I was, I wanted to get a head start on the new upcoming chapter in my life. This past October, I received my acceptance letter to the only college I had applied to, the University of Montana Western. There, I'll receive my bachelor's degree in natural horsemanship and begin the rest of my life as a somewhat professional horse trainer. As I left my home this past December, I realized that I'll be doing the same thing this upcoming August. I will load up my truck and trailer, my 2 horses, most of my belongings, and I will leave Chattanooga, Tennessee for Dillon, Montana. But it'll be different this time. I'll be leaving my home of Tennessee for the past 18 years and going to live the next minimum of 4 years in Montana, 2,000 miles away. I'll be taking my memories, but leaving my past, because the reason I'm talking about my trip to Idaho is not to say how I drove more than 6,200 miles in 5 days, despite it has supposed to taken me 8 days. The reason I'm talking about this trip is because I had planned to arrive in Idaho on December 21st. I want to achieve one of my biggest goals on that day, driving across the country and living. I wanted to arrive that day and meet the horse I had dreamed of for my whole life on that day. I wanted to replace that day with something good. A year prior, on December 21st, I was inappropriately taken advantage of by a man in the horse community who I believed I could trust as a guardian, a person I could look up to, and a trainer. And it's difficult to share my story for the first time in front of so many strangers, especially when people looked at me differently and people saw me as a lesser person after it happened. I shut down and I struggled to find myself due to a lack of support from those around me, and sometimes I still get lost. I'm still there in that car that night. My body is still a stranger to me. I don't recognize myself or my footprints sometimes, and I saw myself at fault for whatever way it could have been my fault. And all I was trying to do was help someone. And since then, there's been a lot of things blamed on me that never happened, and things that happened that were blamed on me. People who were once close to me are now strangers, and the people who I was always there for when they needed help had left when I needed it. How is any of that fair? And I'm not very religious, but I begged, pleaded, and prayed for an answer from God. But even with all my asking, I never received a response. I felt alone, left in the dark, but a simple 4 words helped pull me out of my darkness. I'm here for you. Only a few adults after what happened told me those words, and something so simple made me realize that there were people out there that no matter the situation, no matter the time or place, they'd be there for me. And now I'm convinced that God left me in the dark for a year to find my light on my own. And I found it through that small ounce of kindness. I found it in a couple Baylor faculty members, and all I was to them at first was a kid who needed help with math. I found it in my new trainer, who's taught me that when I get scared and things get tough, to saddle up and ride it out. And I found it in my mother, who let me off the leash to finally find my light out west by looking ahead instead of looking back. December 21st is now a day that I can look back on the good, contradicting the bad. I ran out of fuel in the middle of nowhere Lund, Nevada, with a population of 80. And the people that helped me had a dead horse in the back of their truck. That was terrifying. I saw bands of wild horses left and right as I drove through Nevada and Utah. It started snowing an hour after I left Las Vegas and didn't stop until I came into New Mexico 2 days later on my way back. I almost hit and killed an elk, and probably myself too. And finally, I made it to Idaho, and that all happened on December 21st. So now, I'm ready to leave in 7 months from Montana. I'm ready to drive across the country again and not come back until the following year. I'm ready to meet new people, learn new traditions, and start my future. And I'll take my memories of home, of Baylor, and of everyone here who's treated me right. And I'll take with me what happened that night, but I'll use it to grow and be resilient. Johnny Cash once said, "You build on failure, fear, and the past. You use it as a stepping stone. Close the door on the past, turn the light out on fear. Learn from failure. Don't try to forget the past, but don't dwell on it. You don't let it have any of your energy, any of your time, or any of your space." Thank you.